Well, this deadly rampage is the 27th school shooting to happen so far this year.
From Columbine to Parkland, school shootings have left a lasting impact on our society. The attack at a school in Nashville, which resulted in the deaths of 3 children and 3 adults, was one of more than 130 mass shootings that have taken place in the US so far this year. In today's video, we'll take a deep dive into the minds of some of the most notorious school shooters in history and examine their reactions to the harsh reality of life behind bars. What happens to the perpetrators once they're caught? Do they feel guilty about their actions, or is it just another crime for them? Here are the stories of 5 school shooters reacting to life sentences. Number 5. Dimitrios Pagourtzis. On May 18, 2018, a small school in Texas was the site of a tragic shooting that would leave the community reeling for years to come. It was a typical Friday morning, with students and staff beginning their day as they always did. But just before 8 a.m., the sound of gunshots shattered the calm of the school. In a matter of minutes, 10 people were dead, and another 13 were injured.
Boom, boom, and I just ran as fast as I could to the nearest forest so I could hide. And I called.
The shooter was later identified as Dimitrios Pagourtzis, a 17-year-old student at the school. The chaos of the shooting was captured in real time by students who took to social media to share their experiences. Some students hid in classrooms and closets, while others ran for their lives. The school was placed on lockdown as police rushed to the scene. Although he was referred to by classmates as odd and a loner, no significant red flags were raised that made others suspect that the former football player and honor student had murderous intentions. His father described his son as a good boy and blamed the shooting on bullying that the teenager had endured. 18 months after the shooting, the court first ruled that Pagourtzis lacked the mental capacity to stand trial. His defense had initially contended that his mental state had gotten worse while he was incarcerated. According to the outlet, Pagourtzis was admitted to the hospital after several medical tests revealed that he was not mentally fit to stand trial. Till this day, Dimitrios Pagourtzis is found incompetent to stand trial. Judge ruled that he must spend time in a mental health facility while specialists work to rehabilitate him. Number 4. Ethan Crumbley. It was just another ordinary day at Oxford High School in Michigan, when suddenly, chaos broke out. Gunshots were heard echoing through the hallways. Panic and fear swept through the building as students and teachers scrambled to find safety.
Go.
When the authorities arrived at the scene, they were shocked. 4 students had been killed, and several others were injured in what was later revealed to be a school shooting, carried out by a student, Ethan Crumbley. In the days that followed, investigators pieced together the events leading up to the shooting. It emerged that Ethan had been experiencing mental health issues and had been flagged by the school as a potential threat. His parents, James and Jennifer Crumbley, had been called to the school earlier that day to discuss concerns about their son's behavior. Despite these warnings, Ethan's parents had purchased a firearm and failed to secure it properly, allowing him access to the weapon.
And are you willing to waive that right at this time?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
And Ms. Crumbley, do you also understand that you do have a right to a preliminary examination within 14 to 21 days of the date of the arraignment, and that if I grant the request for the adjournment, you will not have your preliminary examination within that period of time? Do you understand that right?
Yes, sir.
And are you willing to waive that right?
Yes, sir.
As the investigation continued, Ethan and his parents were charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and several other charges related to the shooting. The trial was highly publicized, with emotional testimonies from witnesses and survivors.
On November the 30th, 2021, when you committed the crimes of first-degree premeditated murder in Oxford County of Oakland, that you acted knowingly, willfully, deliberately.
The prosecution argued that Ethan's parents had failed to take proper precautions to prevent their son from accessing the firearm, while the defense argued that Ethan's mental health issues should be taken into account. Finally, after weeks of testimony, the verdict was announced. Ethan's parents were found guilty of involuntary manslaughter and other charges, while Ethan himself was found guilty of 4 counts of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced Ethan to life in prison without the possibility of parole, bringing a sense of closure to the families of the victims and to the community as a whole. Number 3. Evan Ramsey. Evan Ramsey was just 16 years old when he committed one of the deadliest school shootings in Alaska's history. It was February 19, 1997, and the day started like any other, with students and staff arriving at the school for classes. But everything changed when Ramsey brought a 12-gauge shotgun to school with him. Without warning, Ramsey opened fire in the school's crowded commons area, killing 15-year-old Josh Palacios, a popular student, and the school's principal, Ron Edwards. Several other students were wounded in the shooting. Ramsey then threatened to take his own life, holding the shotgun to his own head, but ultimately surrendered to the police instead. He was taken into custody and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, among other charges. As Ramsey's trial approached, the community braced itself for the painful process of reliving the tragedy in court. Ramsey blamed his actions on a variety of factors, including bullying, his parents and teachers, and the foster care system. When the bullying first started, Ramsey told his teachers and the principal about the bullying, but the principal simply told him to ignore it. Ramsey, on the other hand, stated that he could no longer tolerate the abuse. Ramsey ultimately pleaded guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder and was sentenced to 210 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 60 years. This was his reaction.
There's people picking on me.
How would they pick on you?
I'd be called a piece of shit, a bastard.
Number 2. Andy Williams. On March 5, 2001, Charles Andrew Williams, a 15-year-old student at Santana High School in California, committed a shooting that would forever change the school and the community. It started when Williams arrived at school with a handgun that he had stolen from his father's closet. Without warning, he opened fire in the school's crowded courtyard, killing 2 students and injuring 13 others. The school was placed on lockdown as police rushed to the scene. Williams continued to move through the school, firing his gun as he went. Eventually, he was tackled by a teacher and taken into custody. The shooting sent shockwaves throughout the community, which had never experienced anything like it before. Parents gathered outside the school, waiting anxiously for news of their children's safety. The injured were rushed to nearby hospitals, where they underwent surgery and received treatment for their wounds. Williams was charged with 2 counts of murder and 13 counts of attempted murder. At his trial, his defense argued that he had been bullied at school and had acted out of a desire for revenge. However, he was ultimately convicted and sentenced to 50 years to life in prison. Number 1. Nicholas Cruz. Nicholas, a former student who had been expelled, arrived at the school armed with an AR-15 rifle. Without warning, Cruz began shooting indiscriminately at students and staff, causing chaos and panic. People screamed and ran in all directions, trying to escape the hail of bullets. Some barricaded themselves in classrooms, while others hid in closets or under desks. The shooting lasted for several minutes, during which time Cruz continued to fire his weapon. The sounds of gunshots echoed through the halls, accompanied by the screams of terrified students and teachers. When police arrived on the scene, they found a scene of devastation. The bodies of 17 people lay on the ground, and another 17 were injured. The school was placed on lockdown as authorities worked to secure the area and apprehend the shooter. The shooting also sparked a national conversation about gun control and school safety. The students of Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School became vocal advocates for change, organizing a nationwide protest called the March for Our Lives to demand action on gun control. As for Nicholas Cruz, he was apprehended and charged with 17 counts of premeditated murder and 17 counts of attempted murder. The trial that followed was emotional and heartbreaking, as the families of the victims shared their stories and memories of their loved ones. Cruz stood shackled and dressed in a red jail jumpsuit as Judge Elizabeth Scherer sentenced him to 17 life terms. Cruz admitted to the judge before sentencing that he was on medication, but could understand what was going on. The causes of school shootings are complex and multifaceted. Factors such as access to firearms, mental health issues, bullying, and social isolation have all been identified as potential contributing factors. What is the main reason for mass shootings in the USA? Share your thoughts in the comments.